And hi there, and welcome to the first session of this day that I'm going to kick off together with my colleague Simon Gilleman. Hi, Simon. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hello, Daria.
Hi
Good
there.
afternoon.
Hi. Simon is dialing in from Belgium live today, and he's going to make a deep dive into the mass balance concept. Everyone, please ask your questions in the Q&A chat on the right-hand side of your screen. Uh, and with saying that, I would like to pass the word to you, Simon. Everyone, enjoy the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Daria. And again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for some of you. So hope you were enjoying so far this sustainability 3-day summit. Glad to introduce you today the concept of mass balance. And basically, I'll do that in a few chapters. The first one being a high-level introduction on basically what mass balance is. Then I'll share a few words on why mass balance is an interesting concept. I'll as well talk about the implementation of it. So, is it something easy or difficult to implement, and what you should be aware of? And finally, how about Allnex? So, how are we dealing with mass balance, and what is our, let's say, approach to mass balance? Okay, so going to the first, let's say, topic. So, what is exactly mass balance? And I think the most straightforward example and the most commonly taken is green electricity. So, it's a very similar process. So, basically, today you all own a house, an apartment, or you rent a house, apartment, or wherever you live. You are connected to a grid, the grid that provides you electricity. Well, that grid is actually supplied by different sources. It can be gas, it can be nuclear, it can be wind turbines, so wind power, it can be hydropower, or any type of different energy to the grid. So basically, most of the people even don't know exactly what type of energy they are receiving in their own home. But sometimes you do as well know, because you pay a certain premium, because consciously you want to have green electricity being supplied to your home. Mass balance is exactly the same type of principle, and allows me to go to the next topic, or let's say next slide, which will show us three main streams. The first stream, we would say, is kind of, the traditional stream. So the traditional, let's say, production process, where we as a chemical producer, we are buying a range of raw materials, which are, we would call them the standard grades, which are most commonly coming from fossil origin. So oil, gas, and all the different derivatives. So these are part of, let's say, our standard package, and we are selling them at what we call, again, a standard cost. So that's just, most of our product offering today, and basically the product offering we have in the industry today. So that's the current state. And then I'll immediately jump to the future state, and future state, which is, reality already today, but, to some extent, and we'll talk about that, future state, it's having an alternative to the fossil feedstocks, which are basically the recycled feedstocks or even the bio-based feedstocks. So for these, we have dedicated productions, which has to be built, or are built, or let's say requires some equipment modification. The concept is as well, it's not drop in. So basically, a concept that might be familiar to most of you. So when a chemical you are buying can be replaced easily by another one, so meaning they have the same characteristics, chemical properties, etc. So we call these drop-ins, so they can easily be replaced one-on-one. Well, typically these alternative bio-based or recycled feedstocks are not drop-in, so they require additional, let's say, technical verifications and testing to be done to be able to validate them. And as well, and I've a little bit touch based upon that, these typically require large investments. Yeah, we have to build new plants, new equipment. You talk about dedicated pipings, dedicated tanks, dedicated reactors. So these are typically large investments, and these are taking, of course, years to, let's say, slightly replace the fossil feedstocks. These large investments, of course, comes with I would not say large, but let's say consequent additional costs, so premiums when you buy these alternative grades. So can we wait until all these, let's say, new assets are live? Well, actually, no. And that's where I would introduce you to the, let's say, in between step, which is the mass balance, which is basically, I would say, the step before the last one I've just mentioned, which is the use of fossil feedstock mixed with the use of bio and recycled feedstocks. So basically from the source, both, let's say, feedstocks are purchased, being mixed, used in your production, and you are able to offer, let's say, mass balanced products. So we are able to buy these. We're as well able to sell these very soon. These products are typically drop-ins because all the specific characteristics, chemical, mechanical properties, etc., are exactly the same. So these are typically easy to qualify products. They do come as well with an additional cost because, of course, in your sourcing, you are sourcing some bio feedstocks, and like we've mentioned, these typically comes with a premium. Okay, so another schematic way to look at this. So again, you have to one hand, you're feeding your reactors or your production plant with the bio-based feedstocks or the recycled feedstocks. You have the fossil one coming. And what you can see there, so what this shows us is that you have a clear traceability throughout your different production steps. And traceability starts even upstream, at the farmers, or let's say at, the place where the bio-based feedstocks are being produced. You see the small logo ISCC. So ISCC is one of the certification bodies, or let's say certification methods, that can be selected to guarantee the accountability of, let's say, the bio-based feeds. So concretely, you buy 20 tons of a bio feed, you buy 80 tons of the fossil feed, both are mixed into the same storage tanks, and the accountability, accounting we're having there will ensure a proper traceability throughout your value chain, and to be sure that, when you sell your own products in a mass balanced as well, that you are not selling more, let's say, bio credits than you had bought one. So that's basically what you have here throughout the process. That accounting is, or bookkeeping is especially important since both feeds are being mixed. It's much easier, of course, if you have different segregated production streams. Okay, so I talked about ISCC. You have as well another big certification, which is the Red Cert. And these are basically the two main one that you can go to get certified. So they are not certifying you directly. So basically to get certified, you can go to a certification body, and they have, let's say, lists of certification bodies that can, audit you and provide that certificate. Not to name, but you have the TÜV, you have SGS, you have the Baltic Control, BMC, etc. So you have a lot of different types of certification bodies. And the certification typically goes in five different steps. So the first one being identifying, which market you are in, the energy market, the industrial market, feed market, for example. You have to define which certification body you want to take. You will have to register, of course, for ISCC, for example, or Red Cert, so complete specific forms to do so. Then you have a step of going through internal audits. So quite some preparation has to be done to be prepared and, let's say, align your processes on basically the requirements. And ultimately, you will have to pass, let's say, the certification audit to get the certification. A certification is not something you can tackle, let's say, worldwide for all your products. Well, you can, but one of the key requirements is that you can certify a product site specific combination. So if you make one product on multiple sites, you will have to certify that product on each site individually. Okay, so that's what that was about, what mass balance is. Now let's jump into why mass balance. And like introduced initially, so it's a middle step between, let's say, the more traditional way of producing and, let's say, the bio and recycled new production stream. So basically to replace, let's say, the fossil feedstocks by the bio feedstocks, we clearly don't have enough capacity into the market. So this is clearly a good way to have a kind of ramp up to slightly increase, let's say, the bio-based streams and ultimately reduce our own carbon footprint. it's a drop-in solution, and that's something extremely, I think, important. Allnex, we have a very robust change management procedure where every single change for chemicals or any other type of change is thoroughly reviewed in terms of safety, health, environment, but as well all specific technical aspects. Lab tests are being run, etc. So it is something very complex. Well, typically for these mass balance products, the management of change process we're undergoing is limited in the sense that, as already mentioned, all different aspects, technical, etc., are the same. You have a certified traceability, so it's not that you're just paying premiums to have an increased biofeed in the products you're buying. You as well get a specific certificate because it's traceable, and you will as well be able to provide a certificate to your own customers, certifying that you are not selling more than what uh, you have bought actually in terms of bio or recycled streams. Investments are limited, and that's as well, I think, a very important point, not only in terms of, let's say, money that has to be invested, but as well in terms of timing. These mass balance products typically goes to the existing storage tanks. You are using your existing piping system on your production sites and the same reactors. So everything is basically mixed, which in the end limits the investments. Is it easy to implement? So paper-wise, it seems a concept which is attractive and easy, but from our experience, we just would like to pinpoint a few important points that we believe you should be aware of. So the first one, it should be in line with your sourcing strategy. So might seems weird, but especially in these times, and Allnex, we are putting our customers central. So we do everything to secure as much as possible the supply to our customers. And a very important piece in making that possible is, of course, securing the supply of our raw materials. So if you have a very good case for purchasing mass balanced products, well, that's very fine, but you should be cautious in how you deal with it and not being tied with only one supplier. So typically, I would say recommend to be sure that you are able to source from a multiple location, or at least have at your supplier, let's say, two different locations where you can source the product from, to ensure that if one day something happens, that you can continue, to get the material and in the end supply your customers. ERP setup, and I'm not only talking about SAP, but let's say all different ERPs out there. So the setup of these mass balance is something quite new, and we see that even talking, let's say, to industry experts, so basically the consultants working for these ERP companies, are not all, let's say, ready with that. So there's a lot coming into your ERP in terms of certificates, how to cope with these, in terms of codification, in terms of generating as well, and ensuring the traceability, from end to end into your process. And that's something extremely critical because, and that's coming to my third bullet, you don't want to impact too negatively your planning and your SNOP process. You could create new codes, but new codes, new SKUs, let's say it's increased inventory, increased complexity, and we are already dealing with a high level of complexity. So the way you are implementing that throughout your system is absolutely critical and really should, or is worth, let's say, thinking it through. Certification as well. So I think most of the industry players undergo some audits. Is it for ISO 9001, the 40,000, the 50,000 for energy, etc. So being audited is something we are typically familiar with. But know that the certification for ISCC is not that straightforward. Requires big effort in terms of cross-functional alignment between different functions. So we talked about the QC typically, but as well the planning, the supply chain people, and as well, of course, procurement and from the sales side. Alignment, and I believe that's one of the most critical one to have a successful story. So typically, your supplier needs to be ready. So you need to have some product offering into the market. You as a company, in our case, Allnex, we need to be ready as well. So with all the different points, just highlighted here on top. So being your ERP, but as well your production setup needs to be ready, etc. But as well your customer, because if your customer is not willing, let's say, to pay for the mass balance products you intend to sell them, it's not possible. if your customer wants it, but your supplier doesn't have the volume you need, it's not possible. And if both are ready, but you as a company are not ready to, cope with that and let's say have the certification, then it's a complex story as well. So basically, all the different planets has to be aligned there between. Allnex and mass balance. Okay, so just a few words about that. So basically, what we are doing at Allnex is we are assessing, let's say, our different segments, and we are basically identifying where we can increase our product offering with some mass balance products. So that's something typically we are undergoing now in the different segments where we are as well pushing product to the market. I believe you have heard about our EcoWise choice, and especially for these product offerings. So we are as well looking at an increased, let's say, offer of products that are, let's say, boosted with mass balance grades. So basically, further reducing our carbon footprint of our Allnex products. In terms of certification, so I think we've talked about certification, ISCC Plus Red Cert. Allnex has basically chosen to go through the ISCC Plus certification, and we are currently undergoing, actually it will be now in November, an audit for sites in the Netherlands, Bergen-op-Zoom, and our site in Werndorf, Austria. So both sites will be, for a certain product range, be certified ISCC Plus soon. So why did we choose ISCC Plus? That's something we have waited a moment for before making a decision. We have basically talked to a lot of suppliers, but as well to a lot of customers to see what type of certificates they would go for. And basically, in the end, we have decided to go for that specific certification. Okay, so that's it. That's about my high-level introduction on, let's say, mass balance. I hope this was worthwhile for all of you. And I would say if you have any question, feel free.
Yes, thank you very much, Simon, for presenting. And the answer is yes, we do have some questions to you. And I would like to start with the question that has 6 voices. How do the customers of Allnex consider the mass balance approach?
So the interest is actually increasing. So first of all, thank you for the question. It's a very good question. So we see that there is an increase in interest, an interest that we did not see, I would say, 1 year ago. Yeah. So where I think we were more going through the true bio based offering, but we do see that let's say transition through mass balance is a necessity to be able, let's say, to further reduce our carbon footprint and in the end the carbon footprint of our customers. So we definitely see an increase in interest from a lot of customers for mass balance.
Thank you for taking this question. The next question goes into the direction of certifications that you mentioned in your presentation. Is the ISCC certification only applicable for bio-based or also for recycled content?
It's actually for both. For both, it will basically certify your process and the bookkeeping you are maintaining on both.
Thank you very much for this answer. And we go to the next question. Do you plan to focus on specific regions and possibly specific market segments when implementing the mass balance approach?
Another good question. Thank you for that. So indeed, so we see that like I've already mentioned a few minutes ago, so we are analyzing our market segments. So basically see where we can, let's say, push to the market an increased product offering and reduce carbon footprint products. But we do as well see a pull from some customers. And indeed, I would say bulk of the questions we do get are in the European region and this Asian region, so Southeast Asia. So there as well we see a pull from quite some customers. The type of market, it really depends. We see that a variety of markets we are present in do have a significant interest. Some others do not have. Interest comes a lot from the wood, for example, market. So there we see wood and deco. So there we see an increased interest. And by the way, as well, not only for Allnex, but we see from a supplier side as well. So the raw materials we do buy, we do see a lot of projects, let's say, going live or will be live, I would say, in the next years in Europe. I have to say that the activity we do see in the US, for example, or in the Greater China region are more limited, let's say, compared to the two other regions, at least, let's say, for the contacts we do have so far.
Thank you, Simon, for answering this question. The next one, which products are already produced under mass balance approach?
Yeah, so we have a variety of products that will be produced under the mass balanced approach. So, like I've mentioned, we are undergoing the certification. So basically, it's our Alkit business that is produced in the Netherlands and in Austria. We have a variety of products that will be, let's say, covered by that certification. And I invite that person to contact the Allnex salesperson to have the detail on, all the products, or you can always send me an email and I can connect you to the appropriate salesperson at Allnex that will be able to give you all the details.
Thank you so much. And the next one, how much bio-based or recycled feedstock is typically added and can be used for drop-in? In the future, how do you think, Simon, how much of bio-based material versus oil, gas feedstock will be in the products?
So how much mass balance product we can put in our products? I think there is
Mm.
no limitation there, and I think we are pretty flexible. So if we have a specific demand from a customer or a future customer on a specific mass balance product, I think that's definitely something we can discuss, and we can increase the, let's say, feedstocks of the bio mass balance feedstocks or the fossil feedstocks. It depends. So typically we can be flexible there, and at least we are open to discuss that with customers, of course.
Thank you, Simon, for answering this. And we go to the next question. What are the difficulties Allnex is facing today to set up and have products mass balance certified?
It's a good question, and I think you probably have well, let's say, read by my introduction on the challenges to implement mass balance. So that's basically the challenges or let's say that we did overcome. Mainly the ERP setup and the certification. The certification is okay, but let's say really the process you have to think about on how you will set that up, because you can set up your own processes for one, two specific raw materials you're buying. But if, let's say, the offering in the market is increasing and you're not buying two mass balance products but you're buying 20, the complexity will definitely increase. And I think the challenge, or let's say the important aspect, is really to think that through. So how to set that up in your own system, in your own production plants, to be sure that you are not increasing significantly the complexity in an environment that is already complex today, as we know.
Thank you, Simon. And we go to the next question. With mass balance systems, the important feature is to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. How can ISCC or RED certify CO2 footprint? They seem only to care about bio content.
They seem to only care about bio content.
It's a statement.
It's a
It's
statement.
not.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make just comment the purpose of going through the ISCC Plus certification. It's basically to ensure you have a proper traceability. So again, and traceability, from the origin of the biofeeds or the recycled feeds, that you have a clear traceability, and that traceability is going from end to end. So really from where it's coming to ultimately where you are selling that. Again, the carbon footprint, because I think that's one of the interest of that question as well. That is as well something that we are undergoing right now. I think my colleague Davy talked about that yesterday. So that's something that we are currently doing the calculations based on the feedback and the input from our own suppliers' carbon footprint.
Thank you. And we go to the next. Do you have an estimation on impact of mass balance on carbon footprint?
I think it's a difficult question because it's really a case by case. So the thing is that you are lowering your carbon footprint overall, and it depends on what percentage of mass balance product you would put in your own product. But we do see because we are currently making quite some calculations for Allnex products that it does seem to have a clear reduction in the footprint.
Thank you, Simon, for taking this one. Another one, and we have another question. Working with feedstock could be an issue in the future as this feedstock is limited. Can you please share with you your view on that?
That feedstocks are limited. Well, it depends which feedstocks. I think there is no real limitation today. Well, there are some shortages, of course, in the market for some of, let's say, key raw materials, and that's linked to the different, let's say, macro happenings into the market. So, but that's not a structural shortage. I would say it's more due to the situation. No, my point about the bio feedstocks is more than when you look at the volume which is needed coming from the fossil feeds compared to the volume available today from the bio feeds, we are clearly very far away. If we want to replace 100% bio the fossil, then we are extremely far away. So there is let's say not a problem, but there is an imbalance between the demand and the current product offering on the market for the bio feedstocks.
Thank you, Simon, for answering this question too. And we go to the next. Should each batch of finished goods have approximately the same ratio of bio-based raw materials, or is an average by month or year also acceptable?
Well, since this is done through an accounting, typically you will have the same amount for every single product you buy. So if you're buying let's say a set aqua, for example, you will have a standard quantity of bio-based carbon content into it because that is being audited and certified, and it's not that you can always play by increasing or lowering it. So you will certify a certain quantity for your specific product.
Thank you, Simon, for answering this question. And we still have time for some other questions. If a paint manufacturer buys ISCC certified materials from Allnex, does he need to get an additional himself ISCC certified to make use of the reduced CO2 in these materials?
Yes, simply yes. You will
Simply
have
yes.
to, yes.
Okay, very good. There is a question about our site in Lillestrøm, and is Lillestrøm site also in your plans for the certifications or to be certified?
To be certified.
Mhm.
Yeah, so in Lillestrøm, Norway, so we are mainly producing our cross-linking products. Short term, there is no real plan to get any certification. However, we are currently working on, let's say, different products and different raw materials, let's say, to have an offering there as well. So ultimately, all next locations will be certified, yes. But now, short term, it really depends on, let's say, the needs shared, let's say, by customers, and of course, availability of alternative raw materials. If our suppliers are not, for the key raw materials we are using there, are not, offering mass balanced products, it's difficult for us, let's say, as well to make a product offering there.
Thank you. And we have time for the last question. Simon, how would you easily explain the mass balance approach to the end customers who might not fully understand the concept? What would you say to them?
Talk about electricity.
So that I understand immediately.
Yes, or you
Uh,
can send them the link of this webinar. That's as well an option.
That's a good option. Well, thank you very much, Simon, for your time, for joining us today for this presentation.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
Everyone, yes,
Thank you.
thanks. Everyone, thank you for your questions. I see that we have still a couple of questions in the Q&A chat. Simone is going to answer these questions today, and we will publish them on Monday, 17th of October. You will be able to find them, to find the answers in the Documents tab that is there on the left-hand side of your screen. Thank you, everyone, again. Have a good day, Simon, and see you all in the next session.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.